Hello there, America. Tonight we're diving headfirst into a legal term that sounds like a spell from Harry Potter, but is actually far more important for your freedom: habeas corpus. In plain English, it's a fundamental right enshrined in the United States Constitution that allows anyone who believes they're being unlawfully detained to challenge their detention in court. It's like a legal get-out-of-jail-free card, but with more paperwork and fewer top hats. Think of habeas corpus as a cornerstone of a just society. It prevents the government from locking people up and throwing away the key without a good reason. It ensures that everyone, regardless of their citizenship status, has the right to their day in court. It's a vital check on government power and a bulwark against tyranny. Habeas corpus has a long and storied history, dating back to medieval England. It was included in the United States Constitution by our founding fathers who knew a thing or two about government overreach. Throughout American history, habeas corpus has been a crucial tool for protecting individual rights, from freeing wrongly convicted prisoners to challenging discriminatory internment policies. In essence, habeas corpus is the legal embodiment of the principle that you can't just snatch people off the street and lock them up without a fair hearing. It's a fundamental right that we often take for granted until it's threatened, and as we'll see, that threat is very real today. Now let's talk about why this Latin phrase is suddenly making headlines again. The Trump administration, in a move that surprised absolutely no one familiar with their immigration policies, has been flirting with the idea of suspending habeas corpus for migrants detained at the border. Yes, you heard that right. They're considering effectively suspending a fundamental constitutional right in the name of, wait for it, border security. Now, the administration argues that the situation at the border constitutes an invasion. A claim that's about as convincing as a toddler claiming they didn't eat the cookies despite having chocolate smeared all over their face. They say that suspending habeas corpus is necessary to deter migrants and give them more leeway to detain people indefinitely. However, this proposal has been met with widespread condemnation from legal experts, human rights groups, and even some folks who don't usually wear pocket constitutions. They argue that suspending habeas corpus would be a blatant violation of the Constitution, setting a dangerous precedent that could erode civil liberties for all Americans. Imagine a scenario where the government can detain anyone, including United States citizens, indefinitely without trial. Sounds like a dystopian novel, right? Well, that's the potential consequence of eroding habeas corpus protections. Let's be clear, the Constitution does allow for the suspension of habeas corpus, but only in very specific and extreme circumstances, like during a rebellion or invasion. The Founding Fathers, being the clever clogs that they were, made sure to include this safeguard to prevent the government from abusing its power. Now, unless those crafty Canadians have staged a hostile takeover while we were busy arguing about pineapple on pizza, it's pretty difficult to argue that the situation at the border constitutes an invasion that warrants suspending a fundamental constitutional right. The Trump administration's argument basically boils down to trust us, we know what's best. But history has taught us time and time again that when a government starts chipping away at fundamental rights, it rarely stops there. Remember the Patriot Act? Yeah, that started with the best of intentions, and look how that turned out. Suspending habeas corpus would be a slippery slope, potentially opening the door to further abuses of power and undermining the very foundations of American democracy. It would also likely be challenged in court, leading to a legal showdown that could have far-reaching consequences. So what's at stake here? Well, nothing less than the very principles of due process and fair treatment under the law. Suspending habeas corpus would effectively create a two-tiered system of justice where some people have rights and others don't. It would also further erode the already fragile balance of power between the different branches of government. The judiciary, with its power of judicial review, is supposed to act as a check on the executive branch, ensuring that laws are constitutional and that the government doesn't overstep its bounds. By attempting to circumvent the courts and suspend a fundamental right, the Trump administration is effectively saying, we make the rules, and we don't need no stinking judges. It's a dangerous power grab that should concern everyone, regardless of their political affiliation. The fight over habeas corpus is not just about immigration, it's about the very soul of America. It's about who we are as a nation, and what we stand for. Do we believe in a system where everyone is entitled to due process and a fair hearing? Or do we allow the government to strip away those rights in the name of expediency? The answer, my friends, is clear. We cannot stand idly by while our fundamental rights are eroded. We must hold our leaders accountable and defend the principles of justice and equality that define this nation. And we must never forget the importance of that strange Latin phrase, habeas corpus, because without it, none of our other rights are truly safe.